Good afternoon. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act, 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that apply to property, permission to extend or to alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever property in order to create new lots. I will now proceed to the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, while others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who wish to participate virtually and who have registered in advance will be connecting via their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone. They have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will automatically be muted upon entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. And we ask that you also mute your devices until you are called upon to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist status when their item is being heard. And during this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute speaking time. At other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role should you fail to respect this instruction. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card. Those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. And please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, will be sending notifications and updates by email only. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed the rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and specified persons defined in the Planning Act are permitted to appeal the decisions of the committee. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Hearing procedure. I will call each item in the order that it is listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if requested to do so by the panel. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and I'll comment to you as you are approaching the 5-minute mark. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address, and remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. Now, the applicant or agent will proceed first and make a presentation if requested by the committee. Please note, the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application, if substantially revised, to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice are informed of the changes. Then individuals, either in support of or opposed to the application, will be invited to speak. And generally, we call first on speakers who are in the hearing room and then on those that are participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all the speakers are finished, the applicant has an opportunity to rebut, but only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. This afternoon, are there any declarations of interest by panel or staff on the items listed? Seeing none, may I ask, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have you received any requests for deferral?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and panel members. See no applications for deferral this afternoon and see no applications for closure this afternoon.
Thank you very much. We will proceed now to this afternoon's agenda. And we begin with item number 21, 50 Pasadena Gardens. On this application, the committee has before it the following materials. Those materials submitted at the time of application, including plans, surveys, site plans, floor plans, and elevations. There are 8 photographs of trees on the subject property. Cover letter from the agent, August. There's a tree protection plan from the agent, August 17. And there are presentation materials from the agent, August. Commenting reports we have from Toronto and Region Conservation Authority, TRCA, and also from Urban Forestry. We have correspondence in support, signed by the owners or occupants of 41, 48, 52 Pasadena Gardens, and also from 15 Belorne Crescent. So we'll ask the agent to join us, please, by stating your name.
Hi, Mr. Chair and panel members. I'm Bree Johnson of Silver Studio Architect, 21 Silver Ave. Okay,
Bree, you sound You're sounding a little bit distant or muffled.
I will sit a bit closer to my microphone. Is that better?
That makes a difference. Yes.
Great.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Panel members, any questions here for this speaker? Not hearing any. Is anyone ready with a motion? Mr. Nipfel, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I find this to be a very minor application. It has the support of adjacent neighbors and other people on the street. It doesn't appear to be inconsistent with development on the street. And from my perspective, it doesn't impose any negative impacts on anyone. So I'd like to move approval without any conditions.
That is seconded by Mr. Byatt. It is therefore moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor, please show of hands. And that vote is unanimous. The motion is thereby carried and the application is approved. The next application is number 226 Wychwood Avenue. And on this application, panel has before it application materials submitted, 7 photographs, trees, cover letter from the agent, September. There's an arborist report, and also correspondence from the designer, the architectural designer, in August. There's a copy of email correspondence from Lise Bourgeot of 274 Wychwood, sent to Tapasui Narula in August. Commenting reports, we have a staff report from Urban Forestry. And there is correspondence in support from 274 Wychwood and 264, and 3 form letters in support from 272, 278, 291 Wychwood, dated or received in September. Let's have the agent join us, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Saba Al-Matna from QBS Architects, 1670 Bayview Avenue, Suite 401. I am the architect agent.
Good afternoon to you. Okay, panel members, presentation needed here? Questions for the agent? Go ahead, Mr. Nipfel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could we see the third floor plan? I just wanted to clarify my understanding. There's a very large terrace at the front, and it doesn't look as though it's accessible, and yet it has a railing around it. Is the railing just for protection of, is it a green roof, and is it to, for safety protection? Because you also have a Juliet balcony screen across the opening.
You are correct. So there is no access to the front terrace. It's just for decoration and for the future protection if there is a green roof. That's going to happen.
Is it a green roof?
At the moment, we did not propose it to be a green roof. It's just like a platform. We did the railing just for protection and decoration. So it's not accessible at this moment, the front.
Okay, and there's a balcony at the rear of the building on the third floor, and it doesn't have any screening to the north or the south, and it overlooks adjacent properties. So you presumably would have no objection to putting privacy screening on those two sides?
In fact, we added the privacy screens, and there was circulation that's sent to the Committee of Adjustment. We had an agreement with the neighbors. We provided frosted glass for the third floor balcony and a privacy screen on both sides of this balcony, and same thing on the rear deck.
Okay, and what is is there a drawing that shows that we can call up, or can you describe what the screen is?
The screen is going to be like a wood privacy screen, 1.8 meter high on both sides.
And is it glass, wood, something?
It's going to be wood. So it's going to be inside this. So we have the glass railing, and then we have the wood inside.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Wyatt, go ahead.
If I may,
And
just-
it's if I may, it's on the presentation that I sent to the Committee of Adjustment, the hearing day presentation
Thank you. Here's another
on page
question
number
for you.
4.
There's another
Yes.
question for you.
just a quick one. You've got a new front driveway that's to be created. What materials are you using for the driveway? Hopefully they're permeable.
We could use, like, it's not mentioned at this moment, but we could go with permeable pavers.
Thank you.
Any further questions, panel? Hearing none. I think we're ready to take the application into committee. Mr. Wyatt? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is a reasonable application. Nothing too contentious in the requests. I think the only conditions that I can see, forestry 1 and 2, that the new front driveway be produced out of permeable materials. And I believe the screening is already in place.
I don't
but
see
that
it on the drawing,
It's
so
not on the drawing, so
I don't see it unless
maybe we
it-
can just stipulate that the third floor rear balcony and I think it's the deck on the lower level because it's also above grade, that they have privacy screening on the north and south sides.
I'm sorry, I thought did you say forestry condition 1 and 2? I think it's 3.
Is it 1 and 3?
No,
No.
it's just 3.
That's 3.
Just 3. Oh, thank you.
Would you- Would you
error.
consider a friendly amendment as
Yes.
well? I think down the road, there's going to be confusion about the deck at the front. It's really substantial, but it's not intended to be used for access. There is a sliding glass door, but there's a Juliet balcony against the sliding glass door. So I'm wondering if we should have a condition or a note that the front third floor deck is not accessible, because it's not intended to be used for.
Up on the top, yeah. Could we tie it to plan?
Although it doesn't say it's not,
Doesn't.
you really have to search the drawing to make sure that you realize that there's a Juliet balcony
Mm.
there. The only reason I figured out is because I thought the Juliet balcony was a mistake, but it's not. It's
Yeah.
to prevent access.
Okay.
Now happy to
Sounds good.
second that,
Oh,
Mr. Chairman.
thank you.
Okay. It is therefore moved and seconded. To approve, all those in favor, please show hands. Motion carries. The application is approved. Number 23 is 151 Marion Street. Committee has before it the following. Application materials, 4 photographs of trees. There's a staff report from Metrolinx. All the correspondence received is in support, and it consists of correspondence from 235 Queens Quay, 1106 Queen West, 347 Roncesvalles, apartment 181. And there are 3 form letters signed by owners and occupants of 147 and 149 Marion, apartment 1, and 65 Roncesvalles. And we shall ask the agent, please, to join us.
Hello. Hi, my name is Zuzana Krokorka. I'm the agent and architect for the proposal at 151 Marion Street.
Good afternoon to you. Okay, panel. Questions for the architect and agent?
I had something here. This is Marion.
Not, Mr. Bright, go ahead.
Just one, I'm trying to figure out, I had written down somewhere, something to the effect, will, with regard to the rear yard, soft landscaping remaining intact. I can't remember why I made a notation.
Well, there isn't very much soft landscaping currently. It is 3 parking spots at the back, which we are retaining because there is a visitor parking spot for the studio, and then, 2 visitor parking spots for the studio and 1 for the homeowner. So there is a small area of grass, but most of the soft landscaping is at the front on Marion Street.
I noticed you had asphalt parking pad at the back. And I must say thank you for the, I think you've already got privacy screen on the rooftop deck,
Yes.
so that's great. Other than that, thank you.
If there are no further questions, let's take the application into committee. Mr. Byte, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is, again, a fairly straightforward application. And as I mentioned, the rooftop deck has already got the appropriate screening. The only thing that's of note is that Metrolinx has a warning. So other than that, there are no conditions. So I'd like to move approval.
Would you consider a friendly amendment?
Yes, by all means.
Call the screening up as shown on drawing A5.0 and A5.1?
That
They're
will-
shown on there.
Yes, that would be great, Mr.
Okay,
Nicola.
I'm happy to do the second.
It is therefore moved and seconded to approve. All in favor, please, show of hands. The vote is unanimous, motion carries. The application is approved. Number 24 is 657 CARLAW. The panel is looking at the application materials. There is a decision by the committee from 2021 as part of our materials. There's an arborist report and presentation materials from the agent September 13. We have staff reports from Urban Forestry and also from Metrolinx. We'll ask the agent to join us, please.
Hello,
State your name, please.
Nicholas Antro.
Would you mind repeating your name, please?
Oh, Nicholas Antro.
Good afternoon. Okay. Very good. Panel members, questions here for the Mr. Nipfel, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm having a little difficulty with the floor plans. Is the third floor plan and the attic plan, that's the same level, is it not?
Yes, so the third floor, so what we have here that you're scrolling through are the existings followed by the proposed.
Okay,
So what you're
drawing
looking at right now,
A7, the only, I was having trouble because you've got, they're in unusual order, but on, oh, there it is. Drawing A7, third floor plan, that's the proposal, right?
that's the proposal, yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
And on this, I have a note that we'd be advised to look at the purpose and to see if the purpose accurately reflects the intent as at the, regarding the third floor balcony, which is already in place. Am I right on this or confusing people? No, I'm right.
Do you mean the deck is already built?
No, I'm sorry, no, I do not mean that. No, I don't mean that at all. But I think there is a third floor balcony and partial third
If you look at
story.
drawing A, could we see A7? There's two balconies. There's one on either end, but they're deposited on top of a green roof. So you can't go to the edge of the balcony and look over.
All right,
That is correct,
The
yes.
balconies are limited by a green roof, so the green roof distance is operating in part as a barrier.
I get it.
Because of distance, you can't see as well.
Okay. So the purpose is okay as it is. Okay. Any other questions? If not, we can go into committee.
Sorry, if I may just ask, Mr. Nipple might be able to shed light to the attic floor plan. That balcony, is that also,
I don't, well,
Is
that's
that
the reason
screened?
I asked the question. What's called as the attic floor plan, that's existing, and so that's going to be replaced. A8, correct me if I'm wrong, but A8 is going to be replaced by A7.
That is correct.
Okay, so
yeah,
that's the confusion I had when I went through too.
Yeah.
So there's a balcony at both sides,
that's right.
front and back, but it's deposited on a green roof, which is a really nice solution for screening.
Good, thank you. Thank you. Yep, that's good.
Okay, if there are no further questions, I think we can go into committee. Mr. Nipfel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a reasonable application. I don't personally see any negative implications. I think it follows a general character and pattern in the community. I think the solution for the top balconies is particularly noteworthy in that they position on a green roof so that instead of building a wall for privacy, they're sitting on a kind of a moat of green space that provides some level of privacy, and I think that's actually a really good solution. I would like to move approval of the application because I think it's quite reasonable, and the only condition that I have would be subject to forestry condition number 1.
It is seconded by Mr. Byatt. Moved and seconded, subject to forestry, to approve. Those in favor, please. And that vote is unanimous. Motion carries, application approved. Number 25 is 34 through 50 Southport Street. Committee has before it application materials, 5 photographs of trees, cover letter from the agent August the 4th. There are previous Committee of Adjustment decisions from 2015, 22, also an OMB order affecting the property. There's a parking justification letter, August, and presentation materials from the agent, September. The correspondence received is in concern or interest from Kellen Long, who provides no address. So we shall ask the agent for this application to join us, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Hear you? Yes, we do. Thank you. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, sir. The name is Max Laskin, and as noted, I'm counsel to the owner of the subject lands.
Very good. Okay. And Mr. Moderator, I'm just checking with you. Do we have someone registered? Okay. So, Mr. Laskin, you have 5 minutes to present your proposal to the committee. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. This application relates to 2 categories of matters, sir. The first is parking, and the second is indoor amenity space. In both respects, sir, this application would simply bring the zoning standards for the subject site in line with those in the city's comprehensive zoning bylaw. And in that regard, sir, the application is technical in nature. I'll explain each of these categories in more detail, sir, but I note at the outset that our client has engaged with planning staff on this application, and staff have no concerns, as evident by the absence of a staff report. You will have also seen correspondence from Transportation Services in the file advising that they have no objection to the parking variances. As background, zoning amendments were approved for the site in 2013 through an OMB order that you noted, sir. That resulted in a site-specific bylaw that permits 2 towers of 26 and 29 stories in a block of townhomes. The lands are designated mixed-use areas in the official plan. No changes are proposed to the development scheme through this application, sir. In particular, I want to emphasize, as I know that it is of interest to the local community, that the retail component remains the same as approved in 2013, with a minimum of 1,300 square meters of non-residential GFA proposed. This proposal, sir, only involves technical variances to address parking and indoor amenity spaces, as I noted. With respect to parking, the site-specific bylaw was approved in 2013. Since that time, as you know, the city has overhauled its approach to parking and eliminated parking minimums in the city's comprehensive zoning bylaw in most cases. Those changes took effect in 2022, and the approach implements official plan policies that promote transit, walking, and cycling instead of driving to enhance environmental sustainability, reduce pollution and congestion, among other things. The proposed parking variances would align the standards for visitor and commercial parking in particular for the site with the standards now enforced basically across the city. To be clear, no variances are proposed to the residence parking requirements, only visitor and commercial. So looking at the specific variances now, variance 1 deals with visitor parking. The 2022 amendments to the city's comprehensive bylaw provide for a visitor parking requirement of 2 spaces per unit plus 0.05 per unit. Sorry, 2 spaces plus 0.05 per unit. Variance 1 would simply implement that standard on the subject site. The 2022 amendments also eliminated parking requirements for commercial uses such as retail. Variances 2 and 3 would implement that approach for the subject site and provide that no parking dedicated exclusively for commercial uses is required. And I want to emphasize the exclusive concept, sir. It's not that no parking at all will be provided for commercial uses, but rather that no exclusive parking for commercial uses will be provided. You can see the purple spaces on the screen here. Those spaces are the 37 spaces that will be provided on a shared basis for both visitors and commercial uses. And in that regard, the proposal goes beyond the minimum requirements now in the city's comprehensive bylaw and actually provides parking for commercial uses where none is required. You also, as I've noted, sir, there's a transportation report from Lee Consulting on the file that supports the proposed variances and confirms that the parking provided will be adequate for visitors and commercial uses. Staff also have no objections. The 4th variance relates to amenity spaces, and there's a number of images there in the package. The site-specific bylaw includes an old provision that required amenity spaces to be contiguous, that is, they touch each other both horizontally and vertically across the floors, and that they be in multi-purpose rooms. That, as I say, is a relic of a previous approach and a previous bylaw. On this site, a surplus of amenity spaces is being provided, 4.6 square meters per unit rather than the 4.0 required. And the amenity spaces have been thoughtfully designed to provide a variety of high-quality spaces to serve different needs. For example, there are typical spaces such as fitness rooms, but there are also spaces specifically designed for families, such as a family lounge, a kids' library, and a kids' playroom, and other spaces specifically designed more for adults, such as a coffee room and a pub. And so while these spaces are not multi-purpose rooms, and they are not all touching one another, they meet the intent of the official plan and the bylaw in providing a variety of spaces to accommodate residents' needs, distributed thoughtfully throughout the building in
I'll ask you
appropriate
to make your
locations.
final comments now, please.
Thank you, sir. That's perfect timing. In conclusion, in my submission, the variances are technical in nature, they're minor, and they're in keeping with the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and I would therefore ask this committee to approve them as proposed. I'm happy to answer any questions if helpful.
Thank you very much. All right. Question now, Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Yes, I have one question. Variance number 3 is being, the parking spaces are being shared by different groups or different functions. Can you tell us more detail? How do they share in terms of?
Sorry, sir, I did not hear the question. I couldn't hear that through the microphone.
Variance number.
Ms. Chan appears to be muted on my screen.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now?
I can, although it's a little faint. If you could just speak up just a little bit, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, okay. It's about variance number 3.
Mhm.
How the spaces are being shared. Can you tell us more detail on that? How do they share by meter or by hours, or how is it being monitored?
Thank you, Ms. Chan. It's the 37 spaces are being provided both for visitors and commercial users. There's no specific hourly allocation. It's just that they're always available for all users on a first come, first served basis.
Oh, I see. So if you're residents, you can park there longer period? Is that how it works, or the commercial?
Residents have their own spaces. There's dedicated resident spaces.
I see. Okay.
These spaces are just for visitors of those residents. So if you're coming to visit a friend, you can park for an hour or two or whatever you need. Likewise, if you're coming to patronize the retail that's on site, you can come and park in that space for whatever you need. But the residents will have their own dedicated parking. Those
Okay.
37 spaces are only for visitors and commercial uses.
Oh, okay, thank you, yes.
Mr. Nipfel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at the parking justification letter, and I may actually have answered my own question. Can we go down to point 2.1? There's a table there. I was having difficulty when I went through the agenda understanding why you refer to the parking as 2 plus 0.05, and maybe the answer is the following. It's the visitor parking spaces is 2 spaces plus 0.5 spaces per unit. Is that correct? It's not 2.05 spaces per unit or 2.50 total. Is that why it's the 2 separate numbers?
That's correct, sir. So just to use a theoretical example, if there were no dwelling units in the building, you would still need 2 visitor spaces theoretically, and then you need an additional 0.05 for every unit.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much.
Okay, then we do have a speaker standing by, so let's now go to that speaker.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, we have 2 speakers.
We have 2 speakers. Okay.
Veronica, you've been unmuted.
Okay, thank you. Before I start the clock, could you download or the documents for, it's called Richmond Architects, and also the Architectural Plans Part 1.
And I'll ask you to begin, please, by stating your name.
All righty. Okay, my name is Veronica Wynn, and I'm a resident of 35 Ormskirk Avenue, which is an adjacent property, a condo building beside the subject property. I've been served on the board of directors for this building for, I've lived there for about 40 years, over 40 years, and I'm also served on the board of directors for over 25 years of those 40 years. So since 2012, when the neighborhood condos raised $30,000 to appeal the project, the issues of dewatering issues and retail conditions of the OMB and Committee of Adjustments have been their primary concerns. Thanks to the Jonathan Hunt at State Building, and also Diane Damiano and Natasha and Cedric in the building department, our dewatering issues have been accommodated, and we're kind of more at rest with that. But our retail is definitely a problem, especially with the parking, because these retail brokers, they always want to have, they want to know how many parking is there, because that's how they indicate how they will reach their business. So, the retail has been, the parking, the visitor parking has been if you look at the Richmond architect, what do you call it, the data outline, he says that there's 23 designated commercial, which is really in phase 2 of the project, and he says that there's 61 in the phase 2, phase 1 of the project. But Bosefield, who in their report, they say there's only 37, as did Max Laskin there. And so we were kind of confused about that. So we would like to, because at the moment, we've gone through adjustment, OBM, and it's OMB and the Committee of Adjustment, and it's been reduced to 37 now, as I hear from lately, but I find that contradictory. So maybe you could address that. The thing about if there's going to be a shared component with the retail, from my experience as a condo director, I know that people, when they have visitor parking, that they stay there. They could stay there round the clock, and so this would prohibit if there wasn't a time limit put on the parking hours, then the retail component would suffer, and there wouldn't be any spaces. So our request is for greater certainty for the community, and this community is absolutely stunningly wonderful, because it's a neighborhood community which is unusual with the 7 condos. We all know each other, and we all interact with each other. And so we would like all 61 spots, as indicated on the Richmond Architect report, to be in place, with the parking limit of 2-hour parking limit between 7 a.m. and to 7 p.m. as it is now, as it is before we came to this spot here. And so this would provide greater assurance for our neighborhood by putting these time limits. And so I would like a condition that the condition of to be adjusted to say that there will be 61 visitor retail commercial spots provided in the northeast corner of the lot. If you look at the architectural drawing part 1, you will see that I did a count, and that probably was there, but that there would be and that there would be a parking, if it was shared, there would be a parking time limit of 2 hours parking limit between the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., which would allow the visitors, to park there for 2 hours, would allow the commercial and retail to park for 2 hours, but also would allow the visitors to stay overnight until 7 a.m. in the morning, which is what we do in my condo building. So, I'll
ask you now to make your final comment, please.
Okay, so I would ask you for this wonderful neighborhood condo community would provide this greater assurance by putting this condition as part of the acceptance of this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Panel members, questions here for this speaker? Mr. Nipple, go ahead.
My question's for the Deputy Secretary Treasurer. Can we put a condition like that on? It doesn't sound like it's something that we could enforce.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. There'd have to be proper signage.
Yeah.
And-
Right.
Enforced by somebody.
Exactly.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, very good. Not hearing any further questions?
No question.
Ms. Chan, no?
I
Not hearing any further questions, so at this point, we can
Yeah.
take the application into committee.
Wait,
Oh, no, at this point, we
sorry.
have to hear back
We
from
have-
the applicant.
Another
Well,
one.
no, wait a minute. Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, we have another speaker on the line.
We
So
do.
we'll have to hear from him, and then we'll have to go back to the applicant.
Pardon me, I forgot about the other speaker. Very good. Is that speaker ready to join us?
Nicholas, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. Good morning, committee members, or good afternoon, I guess it is, and Mr. Chair. My name is Nicholas Singh, and I'm representing the Swansea Area Ratepayers Association and Group.
Very good, okay. Very good. You have 5 minutes, sir, to bring your concerns to the panel. Go ahead.
Thank you. The association and the community have been heavily engaged in this property for well over 20 years. Many individual members of the community and groups have invested many hours and have done a lot of successful fundraising for studies and representation at the many formal and informal meetings with the developer with a variety of municipal departments, private members of retail industry, and city representatives, even, and also tribunals. The reason I raise that is because the committee is being asked to alter a bylaw that was the result of years of hard work and negotiation without the agreement or consultation with the community. This application seeks to undermine those efforts, and it will have a chilling effect on future community engagement. This situation is very similar to one raised at the August 30 hearing for 29 Pleasant Boulevard, in which the developer, also represented by Boastfield, sought to amend the bylaw that was worked out to permit that proposed development. At that hearing, Connie Rivetto, representative of a local condominium, raised the importance of certainty in negotiations, as did representatives of the ABC Residents Association. In both cases, 29 Pleasant and this 34 Southport, the developer did not return to the community to seek input regarding the new proposal and appeared to be trying to go around the community to gain advantages just because it could. It was refreshing to hear the committee recognize the need to protect the engagement with community and to respect the bylaw that had been worked out for that development. And that application was refused. We're looking for the same consideration today. In our case, the involvement is well documented. I apologize, I didn't submit any material in that regard, but the committee's schedule was not updated until 2 days ago, and we've been taken by surprise and scrambling to understand exactly what was proposed. But I'd be happy to answer questions about our history if that's of interest. We returned to the negotiating table in 2012, as described by Boastfield representative, and with the new and current owner, as mentioned in Boastfield's cover letter. At that time, we had a heavy focus on retail aspects. Many in the neighborhood do not use cars to get around for a variety of reasons, including being retired and enjoying walking, cycling, or not wanting to drive very far. The community pushed very hard to ensure that services such as groceries, drugstores, post office cleaners, a cafe, perhaps a restaurant, would have space in the new development. And this is what Complete Streets are all about, keeping it local, vibrant, safe, and accessible. So we insisted on retail space. We were also very aware that retail success relies a great deal on available parking. And for that reason, the community was very careful to see that commercial parking should be readily available in both sufficient quantities and locations appropriate to supporting the retail space. There was an abundance of studies and examinations by all parties, city departments, the developer, experts hired by the community, and all of this was reviewed and examined and resulted in the current bylaw. All this was again reviewed by the OMB, and the result was the provision of commercial and visitor parking that exists currently. This application seeks to throw all this out by going around the community and directly to the committee, as is their right. So, turning to the justification for the changes, in trying to understand the developer's goal and the rationale for 0 levels of commercial parking, we have looked at the cover letter and the transportation letter provided by Lee Consulting. Both of these documents make it clear that the single reason for the application is the coming into effect of bylaw 98/2022. The purpose of the change is to allow for a range of required spaces from 0 to
I'll ask
6
you to make
per,
your final comments now, please.
to 6 per 100 square meters, depending on the needs of the location. That's why there is a range. Neither of the documents presented by the developer identify a change in circumstance that justifies a change to the bylaw. I point out again that these numbers were thoroughly reviewed by all parties and experts and the OMB and are well justified. These proposed amendments are not. We believe that the removal of commercial parking would lead to the characterization of the retail space as unworkable, and we see this as a failure to support the terms of the bylaw and the retail space that the community worked so hard to secure. We are worried that it would lead to removal.
Your time is now up, Mr. Singh. Thank you. Are there
All right.
questions for the speaker panel?
Through you, Mr. Chair, before we get to the agent, I just want to clarify that notices were sent out, signage was posted, and the materials were also on the Application Information Center as per our requirements of the Planning Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer. Okay, at this point in the proceeding, the applicant will have an opportunity to comment in rebuttal on those comments made by the two speakers.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity to respond. I'm just going to make a few quick points, some of which are clarifying in nature. First, in case it assists for the committee's record keeping, I'm here as counsel to the applicant from Goodman's LLP, not here from Bousfields, in case there was confusion. And I sensed some confusion from the comments that were made. The second clarifying point, sir, is Ms. Wynn's reference to 61 spaces. That is curious, sir. There are no 61 spaces set aside in the plans. The number that we're talking about is 37 spaces that are provided for visitors and commercial users on a shared basis. And the variances, as you can see on the screen, don't pertain to 61 or 37. Rather, they provide that there's no commercial required and instead indicate that the visitor spaces provided can be shared. Third, sir, with respect to this proposed condition about a 2-hour limit, I support the comments that were made from the committee that such a condition is not enforceable. It's not something that can be addressed through this committee. Our clients are proceeding through a site plan application process, of course, and that is something that staff could consider through the site plan process. And in any event, sir, in fairness to staff, that is something that they should have the opportunity to assess whether it's appropriate or not for the particular site based on the context, and the site plan process is the appropriate way to do that. With respect to the comments about engagement, I'd say, sir, that there's in no way does this process run around or circumvent the community. Our client has in fact had a number of direct discussions with Ms. Wynn over the last couple of days, specifically answering questions about this application. And of course, both Ms. Wynn and Mr. Singh are here today providing their input to you, and in that regard, they have had full opportunity to participate. And so lastly, sir, just with respect to the merits of the application again, while Mr. Singh noted that the previous zoning bylaw was reviewed extensively by staff and consultants, that is also true with respect to this application. And I remind you that we have a report from Lee supporting the application. As well, city staff have confirmed that they have no concerns. And again, the proposal goes above what is required under the city's comprehensive zoning bylaw. Subject to any questions, Mr. Chair, that's all I intended to say by way of response.
Let's see if there are questions for you. Mr. Byatt has one. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, what's the anticipated commercial use that you're going to see in this development? Supermarket, anything else that's anticipated?
There's no, I don't have a specific user for you, Mr. Byatt. I can say that there is the potential for a supermarket here on the space that fronts on Southport. There's a large space reserved for that retail purpose, but there's no specific tenants at this stage. As I've noted, our clients are proceeding through the site plan process, and the building is not yet constructed, and therefore we don't know for certain what the tenants would be.
Yeah. The reason I ask, I suppose, is in context of, I think it was Mr. Singh who raised the issue, and as I look at the map, Google map of the location of this particular site, I don't see any easy to walk to commercial settings. So, no main street nearby where you can take a walk and do your grocery shopping or whatever else you need to do. So you're a bit stuck in that area. So if people are needing to come to that space with vehicles, if there's a reduction in commercial parking spaces, that may present a problem. That's one of the things that seems to stick out in my mind in the context of the comments that were made.
Yes, sir. So for clarity, if it assists, there is a street to the west that does have certain boutiques, including a cheese shop and so on, that is walkable. But the intention of the proposal is certainly to provide retail. As I've noted, the minimum amount of non-residential GFA required in 2013 continues to be provided, and the intention is to support walkable local commercial uses for the community. And the 37 parking spaces that are proposed to be on a shared basis would accommodate some users that are driving if need be, but the intention, of course, is to keep things local, supporting the objectives in the official plan with respect to walking, cycling, and transit. And on transit, I'd note, sir, that there's bus stops all along Southport Street here, and as well as transit along the Queensway just south.
Thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Nipfel, please.
Thank you. Ms. Wynn's comment about limited parking accessibility seemed to be based on the fact that somebody could go into a parking space and not leave and be there for 24 hours or longer, and then that would remove that parking accommodation from the use of other people. What I'm interested in not is putting it in as a condition, because we can't do that, but do you support the idea of limitations on parking for the reasons that she expressed? And if so, is there another way in which she can bring that idea forward?
Yes, sir. Through the site plan process, as I noted, there is an opportunity to explore those types of things in consultation with staff. And our client is certainly open to exploring that idea further as part of that site plan process. And we'd welcome Ms. Wynn providing comments to staff that they could consider through the site plan process, and our client will do so as well.
Thank you.
I'm not hearing any further questions. So this would be a good time to take the application into committee for discussion and moving to a motion. Ms. Chan, go ahead, please.
Oh, I can start with some comments. I think that actually the site plan is very well developed. I like the idea that this development consists of different types of housing, high-rise and also some townhouses. When you look at the site plan, actually it's got a very nice and safe drop-off and turnaround road into the site, and they have also provide accessible parking. And don't forget this, the parking requirement bylaw is 10 years old, so things have changed. And I think what they have proposed to the reduction is very reasonable. And I think as long as it can work with the sharing spaces, I don't have any problem with this proposal, and I can support it. Oh, unless
You can make an emotion if you like.
Oh, I like, unless you want to add some comments, I'd like to.
The only thing I
Yes.
would add then, it's not necessary.
Yeah.
The difference between this and many of these other redevelopment applications where there's requested for development standards, these standards that are being proposed to be changed, the proposal that's before us is rooted in policy.
Yes.
The city has already spoken on these issues through policy documents, and like you, I don't have any difficulty supporting the application.
Yes. Okay. So.
Mr. Bike, go ahead.
Just a quick comment, and this is to do with the issue that may arise where somebody parks and disappears for a week. I think those sorts of issues will probably arise in time, present themselves as problems that will need to be resolved, because if somebody's parking there and not shopping when they should be shopping and leaving after 2 hours or thereabouts, I think the commercial tenants will certainly make it known.
Well, and the applicant indicated that Ms. Wynn could make her comments known to the planning department for this, because there isn't an outreach for site plan control, but she can get involved in that process.
Yeah, it is. Sounds like it is like a private management.
Yeah.
In terms of operation, maybe all these commercial parking share space always have problem like that anyway. So they have to manage it themselves.
They have to manage it.
Yeah. So with all the comments, I'd like to move for approval with no conditions, I believe.
That is seconded by Mr. Nipfel. Moved by Ms. Chan, seconded by Mr. Nipfel to approve. All in favor, please. Show of hands. And that vote is unanimous. The motion carries. The application is approved. Number 26 is 30 Ridge Drive. Panel has before it application materials submitted, 11 photographs of trees. There's a map of the neighborhood, of neighborhood support correspondence from the agent.
11 letters.
And there is support correspondence in the form of 11 form letters. They are from 2/9/11, 1923-28, 36, 44, and 47 Ridge Drive, and also from 32 and 35 Ridge Drive. I shall ask the agent to join us, please, by stating your name.
Are you?
Good afternoon, committee chair. My name is Trevor Wallace.
Good afternoon to you. Very good. Okay.
Keep skipping my papers on my desk.
All right. Panel members, any questions for the agent? Not hearing any.
Why does it say that Trevor Wallace is Elaine Welcher in there? Are we missing somebody?
But both these are agents for the same application, and apparently Trevor is taking the duty. Is that correct, Trevor?
That is correct. Yes, thank you very much.
I'm not hearing any questions. Trevor, is there anything you want us to know about your application? Any single thing that we should know? We're not asking for a presentation.
No, sir, nothing substantial, just a minor variation for a single variance for an additional 0.11 density.
Okay, very good. Anyone ready with a motion? Mr. Niffel, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move approval without any conditions. This application is very simple. As indicated, there's only one very minor variance. The implications of the really small additions is negligible, certainly nothing negative that I can see. I think it's a reasonable proposal. I'd like to move approval without any conditions.
Very good. Thank you. Moved by Mr. Niffel and seconded by Mr. Byatt to approve. All in favor, please. And that vote carries the motion. The application is approved. Number 27 is 736 Richmond Street West. And on this application, the materials that the panel has before it are these. Those submitted time of application, there's one photograph of trees. Cover letter from the agent, July. Presentation materials from the agent, August. We have email correspondence from Transportation Engineering, Transportation Services, and also from 734 and 738 Richmond West, which would appear to be the two properties on either side of the subject property. So, let's have the agent join us, please, by stating your name.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. I'm Nova Tiona, the architect and agent for 736 Richmond Street West, the owners.
Good afternoon to you. Okay, panel members. Again, it seems pretty clear what the agent is hoping to achieve here. Any questions? Mr. Byatt, go ahead.
Just with regard to the proposed outdoor deck, I think that's a third floor deck. Just trying to see.
Yes, it is.
Privacy screening, I think on the, bear with me. I think I indicated on the south side. I'm not sure that's what I was reading correctly or incorrectly.
Yes, we are planning to provide privacy screening for both it's the east and west, actually.
East and west.
Sides, yes.
Thank you.
Is anyone ready with a motion? Mr. Byatt, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is, again, fortunately, a fairly straightforward application, nothing contentious. The only thing I would add is that the third floor deck would there be privacy screens applied to the east and west sides to 1.5 meters, and other than that, I think it's good to go.
That is seconded by Mr. Nipfel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you take the vote, might I offer to the applicant a comment? The way in which this was presented was excellent. You've shown adjacent properties, the footprints of adjacent buildings, which makes it easier for us to evaluate context. And the covering letter was very helpful. So this, all in all, this was a very good presentation. And with that,
Thank you.
I'm happy to second.
Thank you. All right. With that, the motion is seconded. So it is moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, please. Thank you. Vote unanimous. Motion carries. Application approved. Number 28. (921) Bathurst Street. The committee has before it the following. Those materials submitted, time of application. Cover letter from the agent, September 5th. Arborist report, August. One piece of correspondence received in interest or concern from Catherine and Panagula Karahazaitis. No address provided. And with that, we shall ask the agent, please, to join the meeting by stating your name.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Jay Smith, 2814 Hollington Crescent.
Good afternoon. Okay. Oh, Mr. Moderator, let's confirm with you, we do have someone standing by? Two speakers. Okay. So, Mr. Smith, you have 5 minutes to present your application to the panel. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe this is a minor application. We're asking for a ground floor addition on the rear of the row house. It is a minor extension, less than the attached neighbor at 923, and slightly longer than the 919. We are looking to increase the FSI and the building length. We're asking for We are asking for 15.66 where 14 is allowed. There are multiple decisions in the immediate area asking for a longer and have been approved at longer than what we're asking for. There's also a variance for the side yard setback to the neighboring wall. In order to remove this variance, we would actually have to extend the addition longer than that dwelling, which we don't plan on doing. So in a lot of ways, that variance is technical in nature. We are keeping the width of the existing rear addition as is, and we'll just be doing a simple ground floor extension. The height is minor. We're just over 4 meters, and I don't believe we'll have any major impact on the neighbors. I did provide pictures, as you're seeing, of the neighboring property that is much longer, much higher, and has a much greater mass than what we're looking to create. And again, I do believe this is minor in nature. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Panel, we have someone standing by to speak. Shall we go and do that and then come back to the agent later with questions? So we'll ask the person standing by to speak to join us, please. State your name.
Hello?
Hello. State your name.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Catherine Karahuzaitis. I'm at 919 Bathurst. I'm the adjacent property to 921. And this property is owned by my mom and I have a few concerns. One of the concerns or questions is that there's no access to the backyard at 921. And there's a fence there that my mom and I have paid for. So the neighbor has not paid for this fence, which is fairly new. So we don't want the fence to be taken down. We don't want any problems on our deck. We don't want anything to be destroyed or damaged. So I'm wondering if the house is attached on both sides. How are they going to be getting the materials and whatever they need for the construction of this was my first question. My second question was that there are trees on the property line between 921 and our property 919. What is going to happen to those trees? Are they going to be trimmed? Are they going to be cut down? Because a lot of them had to be trimmed that were facing our side, and we had a concern with that because they were hitting our property and our windows in the kitchen. My third question is, I just want to confirm that it's just going to be a bedroom and there will be no bathroom on this property, because there have been problems between the neighbor and us where water has leaked into our basement because of problems in her kitchen and her bathroom. So I just want to confirm that it is just a one bedroom that it's going to be constructed. And lastly, I want to find out how close to the fence is this new addition going to be, because we don't want to have any problems or issues with the neighbor concerning the fencing, since my mom and I are the ones that paid for the fence completely. So we want to assure that, the fence is fairly new, that we don't have any problems. And lastly, I just want to ask, when is the construction period? And I think those were all my concerns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. There are a number of construction, basically, issues. But I think it's fair for the applicant to give some comment. So applicant, if you join us again, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's one more speaker.
There's one more person to speak. Pardon me. Okay. Let's have that person join us, please, by stating your name.
Oh, I just wanted to address, it's Veronica Ambrose, 921. I am the owner of the house. I just wanted to clarify that
Excuse me, may I ask you,
I didn't unmute myself.
Your address is what?
921 Bathurst.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
I am the owner. The tree in question, which was adjacent to my neighbors, was trimmed in the winter, so there is no danger of encroaching on her property. And I think my constructor was taking care of the other questions, and everything is going to go through my property, so there is no concern about how we are going to transport the material. And there is no bathroom in the addition. The bathroom which is going to be built is in the kitchen, which is now presently there. So I don't think that this is going to be of concern to my neighbors. I'm sorry if they are concerned about it.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, moderator, may I ask you, where do we stand now with on this with respect to speakers? Is there anyone still standing by?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, those were the only two speakers.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then in that case.
Mr. Chairman, was that a rebuttal? That lady spoke as the owner.
This is my moderator. Well, I think we can go back. That wasn't the same. It wasn't her. Her daughter spoke previously, and then she spoke that time. I think that's my impression too, Mr. Nipfel. So that's why I'm wondering whether there's still a speaker standing by.
No, there isn't. I was told that was a speaker in concern.
Okay, fine. All right, now we're clear. Okay. So let's go back then to the owners and ask them if they have any further comments to make with respect to what was said by the speaker in opposition. Hello? Okay.
Hello, Mr. Chair. The second speaker was Veronica, who is the owner of.
Just a second. Okay, that was this Jay Smith again?
It is.
Okay, Jay, go ahead.
The second speaker you had was the owner of the subject property, Veronica. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but she joined in.
And the first speaker was her daughter, Catherine, correct?
No, that was the neighbor and her mother. But yes, the second speaker was the actual owner of the project we're working on.
Okay, so we've heard from them then.
Yeah.
Now is your opportunity to speak in rebuttal.
Right. So our general contractor has reached out to the neighbors already in regards to their concerns. The extension is likely to be built on piers without a foundation, given that it's one story. We're not looking to interrupt any fences. The trees, as per the arborist report, there are some minor cedars that are coming out that are under diameter and not protected, but any substantial trees are absolutely being protected. The bathroom is away from 919, the proposed ground floor bathroom. That will be on the other side facing the 923 property. And the rear addition will be a dining room and will not have any further plumbing or anything in it. I believe those are all of the concerns, Mr. Chair.
Question for you from Mr. Nipfel. Go ahead.
There was one other concern that the lady that spoke tried to answer, and I frankly, I didn't hear what she said, and that was how is construction going to take place? How are you going to get material to the construction site? Because the existing building goes from lot to lot.
Exactly. That's why we're looking to build this on piers. We'll be coming in through the front door of our project. The rear wall will be removed for the addition as shown in the plans. We're not looking for any major excavation other than a few concrete piers for the addition. So everything will be coming in through the front of our property, and we will not be using access from anybody else's property.
Okay, thank you.
Panel, does anyone else have a question for Mr. Smith? Not hearing any. So, I think we're able now to take the application into committee for a motion. Mr. Nipfel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a very minor application. There's only one variance. What's being proposed is a small dining room addition. I think the neighbors, thank you for your comments.
I think there's two variants.
Pardon?
There's two variances.
Oh, my
Sorry.
mistake.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I was
okay.
a little bit
So there's
worried.
two variances, but they're still, I think, relatively
yes,
minor. The neighbor next door raised some very interesting points and has clarified, the applicant has clarified that the equipment will go through the house to the backyard. I don't see there being any negative implications to anybody. I think it's consistent with the way development's occurring in this neighborhood. I'd like to move approval without any conditions.
Thank you. And that is seconded by Mr. Byatt. It is therefore moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, please, show hands. And that vote is unanimous. That carries the motion. The application is approved. Okay. May I ask the gentleman here in the audience, you're here to speak to which application?
Oh, my
Oh,
goodness.
the last one.
The last one.
Thank you. Okay. Okay.
Very patient. Yeah.
We're now going to number 29, which is 196 Borden Street. On this application, committee has before it copy of the minutes from the May 31st and August 9th public hearings. Copy of the materials submitted at application time. And comment from City Planning in the form of a staff report dated September 13. And we shall ask the agent please to join us.
Joseph?
Thank you. My name is Joseph Mazzatelli.
Good afternoon to you. Okay, just checking with you, moderator. I'm showing we have 2 speakers registered.
Yes, we have 2 speakers.
Very good. Mr. Mazzatelli, you have 5 minutes to present your proposal to the panel. Go ahead.
Thank you. Since our last meeting, the committee members had asked for some corrections to the notice, and I believe those have been done appropriately. It is now described as a 4-story rear addition without parking spaces, and the item 1, the units are gross floor area as it should be.
Permit me to interrupt you for a moment. So there are changes to the minor variances as they were distributed in the public notice. That being the case, we need to capture those in detail very carefully. So I'm going to ask staff to stop the time clock, and let's go through the public notice on the 2 variances and get the corrected numbers that you want to apply.
No, sorry, there are no changes to the variances. The only changes are to the wording of the description.
Okay, all right, that's fine. And how should it read?
Well, as it reads currently, to alter the existing 3-story mixed-use building by constructing a 4-story rear addition to replace the existing parking area fronting Harbord Street. No parking spaces will be provided on site. So this, at the last meeting, there was an objection to the previous wording, but I believe this wording is correct.
Okay, this is the amended wording, so there's no need to change it. Okay.
That's right. There's a corrected public hearing notice that was sent out.
Perfect. Carry on, please.
Yes, thank you. This proposal is for an addition to the rear of an existing building proposed to be 4-story. We are within the height limit. This infill will occupy the gap between the existing buildings and so be an improvement to the streetscape. This continuation of Victorian-style facades will complement and enhance the street. Our variances are minor in nature and so are consistent with the previous similar approval Committee of Adjustment decision at 165 Brunswick Avenue. And you'll find that in the file. That application was approved at 2.84 times coverage. That is 1 block away from us. It was approved with 9 variances, similar to ours. It is my opinion that this addition meets the 4 tests. It is minor, desirable to the streetscape, and within the zoning unofficial plan. Also, it is encouraged by the city for residential infill, and it is supported by the city planner. We initially had parking spaces on the ground floor, and the city planner actually suggested that we remove the parking and fill that in. Likewise, we originally had a front basement stair approved by transportation, but the neighborhood group and the planner objected, and so we have removed that completely. The city planner does not object to this proposal, and there is no height variance. In the file, you'll also find a similar 4-story building nearby. We ask that you approve this application as it is reasonable and appropriate improvement to the neighborhood and the streetscape. And I think the most important thing to realize is that the city planner is supporting this and encouraging that we provide the infill on the ground floor. So we ask for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, then let's go to the first speaker standing by to speak in opposition.
Robert, you've been unmuted. Robert, you've been unmuted. Can you please try to speak?
Yes, hello, I'm here.
Okay, this is your opportunity to speak, Robert. You have 5 minutes to address the committee.
I can't hear the committee member.
Pardon me. Thank you. You have 5 minutes to address your comments to the panel. And go ahead with your concerns, please.
Thank you, panel. First thing I must do is thank those who were on the panel earlier times that insisted the public notice be corrected. For the record, there were errors in it, and we appreciate your defense of the process. It's important. I have just a few things to point out. One, I'm not sure the reference the applicant has given to 165 Brunswick is in a different zoning area. If you look at my letter on Appendix 1, which is page 4, you can see that the subject property is not in the same zoning area as the one he's referenced to. Although I don't think much turns on it. I'm not sure why he keeps raising that. It's a different zoning situation. The major point I would ask you to consider, and if I could ask the staff to call up the proposed plans, and starting with A1, I have just a comment or two on them all, because my general concern is you have been given very little to decide and assess this proposal, other than the metrics of the variances. If that is A1, I'm not quite sure. Yes, thank you. I'm going to go through the pages quickly. Of the additions, there are no baths, there's no access to water, there are no closets. All you really have is the building envelope. And I want to suggest to you respectfully that you have qualitative metrics to deal with, that it's desirable and appropriate development of the land or building is one of your criteria, that it meets the general intent and purpose of the zoning code, that it is the general intent and purpose of the official plan is maintained. You've been given nothing but the raw elements of the envelope to decide that. And for a little bit of effort, and this objection has been on paper from the beginning, the applicant saw no need to give you any more information. He knew this was our concern. If we can look at A2, please. I'm sorry, my next comment is on A3, which is the ground level. A3 is the next one along. And if you could show the top side of it, please. There, very good. That's listed as a workroom. It's connected through one wall to the main floor of the building, which is connected to the restaurant. Can you go to A4, please? At the top section, thank you. A4 is the second floor, and it's the proposed addition family room. Again, the only thing that shows is the connection to the second floor, which accesses a two-piece existing bath and stairs to the bedrooms. Can we go to A5, please? And showing the top, that's the third floor. There's no closets. The bathroom for this bedroom is accessed one story below and through the existing building to a two-piece ensuite, or further along, almost to Borden Street, where there's an existing ensuite bathroom. If you go to A6, please. Is that A6? Yes, thank you. Same issues in this proposed bedroom. There's no closets, there's no access to water, there's only a stairway down through another bedroom, through the family room, across to a two-piece bathroom, or you walk across the roof to a ensuite bedroom. There must be more to this. It is, I think I've made my point. I've got 52 seconds, 50 seconds. There's just nothing for you to assess what is this space, other than it's a residential addition. The design of it is nonsensical to me, and it appears that you're being asked to give a blank check as opposed to the nuance and the more specific use of the addition. Thank you so much for your time. I'm under the wire. I think that's a first. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for this speaker? Mr. Byatt, go ahead.
Just a quick question, if I may. I take your point in terms of looking at the drawings that you referenced. What is it that you may be concerned about in terms of the use? Because we don't really see any use, as you pointed out. what would you be worried about in terms of possible use?
Well, in a situation like this, I would have asked your condition that the building be made significantly in line with what's being proposed to you. I cannot do that because there's no meat in it. And this is an applicant that a few years ago, I assisted him and the neighbors coming to an agreement with an adjoining property. But the neighbors experience a lot of difficulty in that project, and there's a little bit a gap in trust is occurred there. So you're going to hear from one of them, and with the absence of putting the material in when we have asked for this, and we'd asked for it in writing in our earlier submissions at the earlier hearings, he thinks you don't need it. And I think that's an error. He's not giving you a chance to take a fulsome analysis of this project. And lastly, it concerns me that he keeps referencing the 165 Brunswick when it's a mixed-use commercial residential, which is a different zoning. So I think there's confusion on the applicant's part in terms of what he can or can't do with this property. And I'm going on a little long. Thank you for the question. I hope that helps.
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and moderator, we have one speaker more.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well.
State your name, please.
I'm Joshua Nelman, owner of 192 Borden Street, and representing Denise Bennick, owner of 194 Borden Street as well. Thanks for taking the time today. We really appreciate it. I think I just want to pick up on where Bob left off, because I think that is a good introduction to our concerns over this project in terms of the variances requested. Our main concern really is the 4-story wall that will enclose, in a sense, all of our yards and loom over it. Our concern stems from a meeting and negotiation we had with this developer over variances at this committee about 5 years ago. In which we came to an agreement, but after the fact, there were a couple of details that were added to their project, including quite a large window that suddenly appeared on a property line directly overlooking the backyard of 194 Borden. And so, of course, when we're looking at a proposed 4-story wall by the same developer, our main concern really is privacy, overlook issues, any, for example, patios that could be constructed at the last minute that would overlook our yards, etc. Just based on the history here and the fact that we did ask for a building inspector to come down and have a look at the finished project based on our experience with the committee, that never actually happened, and we really tried. So our concerns really are the quality of that wall, what it will be made out of specifically, and whether there's absolute clarity here that there will be no illegal windows, no illegal balconies, nothing of the sort. So that's my piece. I'm under time by far, but those are the issues.
Thank you. Questions, panel?
Sorry, yes. Can you repeat your last comment? I missed what you say, make sure there's absolutely no what?
No windows on the south-facing wall, the back wall. No windows, no balconies, no patios.
Yeah, we are looking at the door. Yes, they're not proposing any openings there. Yeah.
Yes, but my point is that at the last committee meeting, which we negotiated in good faith under the watchful eyes of the committee, there was no window facing a yard on a property line, and that was put in at the last minute. And no city inspector ever came to visit this site to listen to our complaints about this process, and this was brazen. I feel obliged to get into this history now that we're here again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nipple. Question.
If any approval that might be given was conditional upon this drawing that you see on the screen, that rear elevation, would that pose difficulties for you? That would mean you can't just go and add windows and doors and all sorts of stuff. It would look like this. So I just wanted to know if that meets your needs.
It would meet our needs to a certain degree, but again, on the drawing, what is the wall made out of?
Sorry, sir, that's a different question, is it not?
Yes, in terms of the variances, yes, that would help meet our needs. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Panel, if there are no further questions, we'll go back to the agent, who will now have an opportunity to speak and comment in rebuttal on what the two speakers said. Agent?
Thank you. The architectural drawings are a legitimate representation of what is to be built. There are no windows proposed on the sides, and the floor plans show basically a large room per floor. It's not a big addition. The room per floors are labeled as bedroom and family room and workroom, and they're approximately 6 meters by 5.56 meters. So it's a simple room with a staircase in it. There really isn't need for any more description. I'm not aware of the previous problems with other windows, but obviously we ask that you support this. It's a simple addition. We will commit to no windows on the south side as the neighbor wishes. And once again, the direction of this addition was entirely assisted with the city planner. And so we hope that that is enough to convince you that this is a legitimate proposal, and we ask for your support.
Mr. Nipfel, first question.
I have a couple of questions. Could you tell me what kind of screening there is around the existing flat roof deck? Because there's nothing shown on the plans, but on the elevation it looks like only a portion of the south side of that deck has got, I guess a railing. And then my second question was, it would appear from your elevations that the street elevation is brick. Is the south elevation also to be done in brick?
Yes, so I'm sorry, but I'm not certain of the screening on the deck, but that should obviously be at least a 1.5 meter solid screen, which we will do. And in terms of the brick facade, which is appropriate on the Harvard side, we haven't decided the materials on the rear based on the construction, but they will be a simple material, either stucco or brick, something of that nature.
I think given the concerns of the neighbor, I think you should make a decision right now. I would encourage you to do it in brick. It's not going to be that much more expensive, and there is a concern about that elevation, and as the gentleman indicated, if it were built in accordance with the elevation drawing and it were brick, they would have no difficulty with that.
If you would allow us to choose either brick or stucco, would that be possible?
No, I think you should choose.
All right, well, it's difficult, but I suppose we can commit to brick.
Thank you.
My question for you is, going back to the floor plans. So you made the point that these are simply large rooms. So am I to understand, therefore, that all of the intended washrooms and kitchens are portrayed on these floor plans on all floors?
Yes, they're in the existing portion.
Okay, thank you. Panel, further questions? In terms of intended use, is it clear? Is the owner's intention clear that the entire structure will be residential?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, panel. Let's go into committee now, and we can, yeah.
I should start, you know why? Because I think, were you on this last hearing with the same? Okay. I just want to sort of refresh ourselves on this. Last time, it was like they worked with the community planning, were advised to take away the parking where they built the addition now. Then they eliminate the parking and just have the addition in the gap. But the purpose clause was not revised. So it was a little bit confusing. So we told them to go back and clear up the purpose clause, and there actually will be no parking for the proposal. So that's the history of it. And it's not because there were a lot of opposition or whatnot. It's because they're unclear of the purpose from last time.
Mr. Byatt.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, in the purpose, you just asked the applicant a moment ago about that this addition would be for residential use. I'm just wondering if one should perhaps stipulate as a condition that this
Makes sense.
addition will indeed be for residential
Good-
purpose.
good idea.
The purpose doesn't indicate it. It's talking about the mixed-use building being altered, so it could become mixed use. So I think that may be something we
Yeah,
would
but the
consider.
zoning allow, this area is all mixed use.
be mixed
And on
use.
this street, yeah, on Borden, on Harvard Street, is, and at the corner of Harvard is all mixed use.
Also, wouldn't it pose a problem if you look at the ground floor plan, the use, the one area that's actually clear, the use for that portion of the addition is a workroom, that's not a residential use.
That's right.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
we should not
it's a workroom.
touch that, yeah. They're allowed to have
okay.
mixed use. Okay. Other than that, can I, actually, I think as the last, from the last meeting, we look at it, and actually, at the moment, is a parking space, and then it's in between two buildings. I think that this development is actually improvement on this, on the streetscape and fill the gap. And I think the parking actually create more unsafe conditions. And with the scale and style and the use, I think that actually it fits to the site context. And I think it's a good development for the site. Yeah. So I will be supporting this application.
Is that a condition for a?
You want to add some comments first?
I just want to make sure that they build the south wall of the brick.
Yes,
And the
actually.
planning condition which
Yeah,
ties into the plans.
Exactly, there's a planning condition that is tied to the plan and elevations, actually, the rear
Okay, so
elevations.
that's a motion, right, for you?
Yeah. And also, you not want to,
Screen the balcony.
the
The
privacy,
gap.
the privacy screen on the flat roof on the south side will be 1.5 meter privacy screen.
Very good. There's the motion, and there it is, seconded by Mr. Nipfel. So it is moved and seconded to approve the application. All those in favor, please, show of hands. And that vote is unanimous to carry the motion. The application is so approved. Thank you. And that moves us to the final item on today's agenda, item number 30, which deals with 206 to 208 Bartlett Avenue. And I understand that you gentlemen are here for this application. Are you the agent or speaking in? You're the owner? Of the house, okay.
Hello? They're neighbors.
Behind.
Oh, you're not the owner, you?
It's building, no.
Okay, so,
The resident, the neighbor.
okay. And are you both here to speak?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Let's connect first then with the agent. I see him now. And so agent, just stand by for a moment while I read into the record the materials that the panel has before us on this application. We have a copy of the minutes from the August 9th public hearing. We have copy of survey, revised site plan, floor plans and elevations submitted as part of the application. We have, in terms of comment, we have transportation services, September the 5th, correspondence, and we have an actual staff report from Urban Forestry on September the 13th. There is correspondence in interest or concern from 204 Bartlett Avenue, Brian Rembach. And there is correspondence in opposition from 290 Delaware, Mark Friesner, and 202 Bartlett, Luigi Termine, received September, both of those. So we'll now ask the agent, please, to join us by stating your name.
My name is Mark Roszkowski, and I'm the architect on the project.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, you, sir, have 5 minutes to present. Oh, sorry, Mr.
Could I just, when he's presenting.
Go ahead, go ahead.
We're missing a covering letter here. This was deferred with very specific instructions. Can we find out what he did since he was last before committee? Because none of us know.
Okay, so Mr. Roszkowski, if you could let us know as part of your presentation what you've been doing since the last time you were before us.
The drawings that were submitted on the last Committee of Adjustment didn't change.
Okay,
however, there were some concerns from the neighbors that they were, because we were negotiating with them almost to the end, to the Committee of Adjustment. So there was some confusion. Which ones are the latest? Which ones are the right ones? You know, but actually the submitted drawings are the same.
Go ahead with your presentation, please.
Okay, so as we said, we work very hard with the neighbors, and then even met with them after that, between last hearing and this hearing. And we, some of them we met with in person, with the people, 204, but that we met a couple of times on Zoom, I think 3 times. Also, we work very hard with the planner, and then to make sure that all his concerns are met regarding the setback, floor space index. We brought the proposal below 2, materials finishes. Previous proposal had some stucco. Planner requested brick. Window sizes were increased. Privacy issue screens were provided on the balconies as well as on the ground floor, and then some privacy hedges between the neighbors to the south and the entrance. Height, we are below allowed height. The total allowed height is 12 meters. And then 4 floors, but we just asking for 3 floors. We provided some green area, which were no green area right now on the site. We don't cause any problems to the neighbors with the shadow because all the neighbors are to the south and the west. To the west, the neighbor is more than 10 meters away. We're not blocking any access, we're not blocking views, and there's no noise issues. As far as the variances themselves, there's a building depth. Instead of 14 is maximum, we're proposing about 17 meters and 3 centimeters. Floor space indexes, as I mentioned, is 1.99, whereas some of the previous proposals were over 2.4, I think. And the front yard setback. Right now, front yard setback is of this building is less than 2 feet, and which is about 55 centimeters. So we're proposing right now 2 meters and 12 centimeters to address 204 Bartlett our owner. So he wanted a more view towards the Hallam Avenue. And rear yard setback, as I said, is almost 6.5 meters, and 6 meters 43 centimeters. They can accommodate handicapped parking and then 1.5 meters handicap strip, and then some soft landscaping and the entrance to the building. As I said, the landscaping, we provided about 13% right now, and there is no landscaping right now on the site at all. Everything is asphalted, plus there is a big garage at the back, so we demolishing this garage. We provided one visitor parking space, so 2 visitor parking spaces are required, so we're asking for this variance. And there's no issues with the transportation and no specific issue with the urban forestry. No, I'm aware of the letter of very much for you, but it's not really specific to our to this site, but to all properties.
I'll ask you to make your final comments now, please. I'll ask you to make your final comments now, please.
So my final comments is, I think this is a very good proposal for the neighborhood, and the planner really liked it and said it's ideal proposal for the city because city needs units, desperately needs residential units, and that's what we provide. And I think it will be a good addition to this Hallam Street. The Hallam Street has a sort of like a feeling of an avenue. There's no strictly like residential private houses on Hallam. It's more like schools, little apartment buildings, but most of them are very old. And so this would be, okay, sorry.
Your time is up. Thank you very much. Okay. There are some questions for you. Mr. Nipfel, you can carry.
What I heard,
I can hear you, sorry.
I bow to Mr. Bayat and Ms. Chan because they were both on the original panel. But what I heard you tell me was the original proposal was great. I didn't hear that you made any substantial revisions. Now, some of that might be the connection we have. What you were instructed to do was to revise the plans, clarify the variances, and consult with neighbors and provide a new public notice. And when we got the agenda, I have no idea what you changed, and that's still my question. What's different in the proposal between what was here last time and what we have here today? You said nothing had changed. The plans are exactly the same. Is that correct?
Drawings are exactly the same. The drawings didn't change. What changed is, what caused the confusion is that the drawings we were negotiating with the neighbors almost to the end, and then we submitted 24 hours before the hearing. So some of the neighbors and then even the panel, they were confused which numbers are correct. So, I don't know if Ms. Chang or somebody else was reading which variance applies, this or this. So I kept clarifying one by one.
Okay,
but
so
now...
There are no changes. It's what was here before. And then
yes.
The consultations you had with the planning department, were they around making change? Well, I gather not, because you didn't make changes. You basically discussed it with planning and they're satisfied. Is that correct?
Yes, the planning was satisfied, and actually they liked the proposal. And our planner, Kirk Hatcher, and even his managers, they told us it's a very good proposal, but they're not in a custom to issue the supporting document to the panel, because it's not, but the panel understands if there is no opposition from the planning department, that means the planning department is for the proposal.
Okay, panel. Any further questions for this applicant, panel members? At this stage, we do have 2 speakers, so you can ask questions afterwards also.
Actually, I'm not too sure he's correct. I think there's some change actually but whether it's affecting the overall proposal, I'm not going to spend time. I think that they actually reduced the building depth from last proposal was 18.56, and this time it's only going to be 17.03, so they're reducing the depth. I think there's some changes. But
Through you, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
that's correct. If
Yeah.
you look at the August 9th, 2023 minutes in comparison to what's before you today, variance for depth, floor space index,
yeah,
as well as soft landscaping.
yeah, there are few changes. Actually, they have make it better, they improve it from last time.
We managed to put it under the two, but as far as I remember, I didn't make any changes to the drawings. I don't think so.
So the drawings have changed, then if they are to reflect these variances, they have made changes.
Okay. Let's, we have speakers that are standing by patiently to speak. Let's hear from them, shall we? And moderator, do we have any speakers virtually joining us, or just those that are here in person?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we have 3 virtual speakers.
3 virtual? And how about speakers that are registered here in the room?
And we have 2 in the room here.
Okay. So let's begin with the first registered speaker who is present with us. Hear us in the hearing room.
Good afternoon. My name is Ralph Capriati, and we're the neighbor at 215 Hallam on the west side of this project.
Just a moment, please. 215 Hallam. Very good, sir.
Yes.
Okay. You have 5 minutes to address your concerns about the project to the committee. Go ahead.
The gentleman speaking, who was that?
That gentleman's name is Marek Roszkowski, who is the agent for the architects.
That's the agent, that's not the owner. Okay. First of all, when Mr. Siddiqui, we met with him a couple of weeks ago, he promised that he would get a survey. This is for the fence, the new fence that once the garage gets torn down, a fence, a survey, and all that. And I would like it in writing because changes are being made all the time. The other problem was with the balconies, and the building is too deep. It's going to be very close to our windows. They're looking into our windows and everything else. I don't have a problem with the side, the front, that's fine. But it's very close to our house, to our windows. There's not much separation.
How much?
21 feet, he said, or something like that, because of the parking that he's going to provide again, where the garage is. But it's deep. I don't have a problem with the height or all that, you know. And all those balconies there. Will we get privacy? You're never assured of who's going to live there, who's going to party, because I've had this with other tenants in other houses there that rent. So, you know, that's a problem. And the parking, years ago when the other owner had it, we fought for 2 parking spaces, we got it. Now there's only going to be 1. Which I don't know what can be done about that, because a lot of people are stuck for parking on this street. You know, and that's all I can really say. Like, I would like assurances that he's going to build a high fence enough in that, and it's still too deep. That's the problem. He's got all these balconies, all these windows, and what's he looking at? Our house, our windows. Like, they can peer in. We'll never have any privacy. We've been there 66 years and going on. So, you know, it's not right. They just come in and he's going to make it fine for us. Yeah, okay, he's going to make it fine. Anybody could say that. But, you know, you've got to take into the concerns of all the neighbors, you know, that are against this. It's not because they're building a new building and that. It's the structure of it. It's so big, you know, for this neighborhood. This has been all family neighborhoods and everything else, and we'd like to keep it that way. It's not elitist, it's working class, you know, so that's all I can say about this.
The fence you're talking about is on, can we go back to the site plan?
It's on this side, the west side.
On this,
It's,
here, on,
this is our house here.
yeah, I know, here, well, we could,
Yeah.
there, on the site plan, there. It's on the back, behind,
Yeah,
between your property and,
yeah,
yeah, okay, thanks.
yeah. There's 4 tenants now, 4 or 5 tenants that are gonna lose their place. So what is the city accomplishing? This is happening everywhere. They're throwing tenants out, to put new tenants in. How are you accomplishing anything? You're taking from Peter to give to Paul and from Paul to give to Peter. I don't understand this. No, it's a bit crazy. The man has a right to build. He bought a property, he has a right to build. But keep it, you know, in size. He wants a bang for his buck, fine. But, you know, it can't work like that all the time. Too many units, you know, and it's fine, and it's fine for the city to say, oh, we don't need parking anymore. Have they looked around? Are they realistic of what's really going on with parking? There's going to be more cars, more electric cars, there's more rental cars, you know, there's everything. If if people had guarantees that nobody's going to have cars, that's fine, but that's not going to happen. So, you know, it's...
How good is the access to TDC from this property?
TTC's about a block and a half away, the Dufferin line. And the other line, you'd have to walk to Dovercourt about 4 or 5 blocks, and then to Ossington. So that's all I can say. And plus, we're getting another big project, the Galleria, and that's really big. You know, that's way beyond what's happening there. I don't think it's going to accommodate all the people on TTC and everything else. We already have problems with that. So, you know, what can I say with that? I don't know.
We appreciate your comments, Mr. Panel. Are there any further questions for this speaker?
I just want assurances if he builds that we're going to get a high enough fence in.
Your time is up. We thank you for your patience.
Okay,
I know that you were here before.
Yes, we were.
Yes, so we
We
know
were
you've been
lost
here
again.
for a while. Thank you. Very
Thank you.
good. Okay, moderator, who's next?
This gentleman.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Dale Rich.
Good afternoon.
I live at 866 Bloor West. It's near Bloor and Ossington. I don't live in the immediate vicinity, but I have a long-term involvement in the community. And
You have 5 minutes to address the panel. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. First of all, the changes that were made that led to the delay were very insignificant. I believe they just recessed the access outside stairwell to try to meet some complaints from the neighbor that lived just to the south of the building. These variances are not minor. The density in particular, the gross floor area index, is more than 300% greater than what the bylaw states, which is 0.6 coverage. This is an R2 zone exclusively. The new variance is still almost 2, it's 1.99. So it's more than 3 times bigger than what the bylaw allows for. The front yard setback, which is supposed to be almost 5 meters, 4.91 meters, is, if you take the balcony into consideration, is 0.6 meters, which is about 8 times less. 880, the actual at 0.6 as compared to 4.91. The landscape open space is considerably less than what the bylaw calls for. So I think it's obvious that these variances are not minor in any sense of the word. I'd like to bring to your attention that there was a Part 2 plan for the Dovercourt Park area, which was adopted in the late 70s. And I'm not sure what the status of that plan is, but I think some heed should be paid to the main recommendations which came out of the plan, which was, first of all, that any housing development, and it only allowed for single-family housing plus institutional type of uses, which would be involve churches. So the only planning that was, the only type of housing is single-family. And this is obviously at 10 units, not single-family. Furthermore, the Part 2 plan called for family housing, I bring to your attention that the average square foot of these 10 units is less than 400 square feet. So we're talking about a large-sized closet, a one-room type of building. This is not family housing. This housing is designed to maximize profits. I bring to your attention the latest statistics from Urbanation is that the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Toronto now is about $2,600. The average rent for a two-bedroom apartment is $3,500. So these units are at less than 400 square feet, are obviously set to maximize the developer's profits. I also wanted to point out that the current housing, there are 4 units in the building which are affordable. The average square footage of the 4 units is about 537 square feet. The average rent is $967 a month, not $2,500. Or I went to the trouble of talking to the tenants in the building. And keep in mind that if these variances are approved, these tenants will all be evicted in short order. Furthermore, there's no guarantee that any housing will ever be built, that this building will ever be built on this site. If you remember back to the crash of the real estate market in the early 90s, every major real estate development company in the province went bankrupt. And a lot of housing wasn't built for many years. So I wouldn't want to impute motives to the developer, but again, there's no guarantee that this housing will ever be built, and there will be 4 affordable units that will disappear.
I shall ask you for your final comments now, please.
I just wanted to summarize that this project, the official plan said that any density over 1 times coverage requires a zoning bylaw amendment and official plan amendment. I think this proposal should be rejected so you can force the developers to do the proper route, which is to get an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment to allow this excessive development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's see if there are any questions for you. Panel members? I'm not hearing any. Thank you also. I know that you also were here prior to our break. Okay, let's go to those standing by to join virtually, please.
Brian, you've been unmuted.
Sure. Thank you. And thanks, committee, for your time. I'll try to be brief. So I'm the next door neighbor to this property at 204 Bartlett, and I am generally supportive of the rental building going up.
Pardon me for interrupting, but would you state your name, please?
Oh, yes, sorry. My name is Brian Rembach.
Go ahead.
So aside from being supportive of the building, I also just want to mention that I'm appreciative of the changes that Mark and the owner made around the setbacks of the stairwells. However, I'd like to, like I mentioned in my letter, both for the August 9th meeting and for this one, I have concerns about floor space index. And the request to have an FSI of 1.99 instead of 0.6, I find to be excessive. This is 332% of what is currently permitted, which is materially different both from what is allowed and what variances have been granted in our neighborhood. The proposed FSI at 1.99 would allow for them to squeeze 10 units into a relatively small space. And this could represent 20 or more individuals on the small property. So I know that the owner, in speaking to them, they've mentioned that they will look to only get decent tenants, which I appreciate and I'm thankful for, but I worry that the density will make attracting acceptable tenants and neighbors a challenge. Aside from just attracting tenants, I find the current density is generally not consistent with the character of the Dovercourt Park community. In researching rental properties in the area, I was able to easily find many fourplexes, 1 5-unit dwelling. And this is what really gives the neighborhood its character, is the mix of these multiplexes with the other dwellings in the community, but I haven't seen any examples of such a material variance in FSI density or number of units. Specifically, you know, as examples, the smallest unit in this building being, I think was 220 square feet inclusive of kitchen and bathroom. So I find jumping from a 4-plex or 5-plex to a 10-unit building, doubling the units per lot, seems to be one that's materially different from the neighborhood. So bringing that back just to the 4-point minor variance test, I struggle to see how that doubling of units and the big difference in FSI is minor. And those were the major concerns I wanted to raise. Just in response to something that Mark had mentioned, that I just wanted to clarify. He said in describing Hallam Street that it isn't residential, and that it's mostly schools. There is one school on the street, and as far as I can see, the rest of it is residential and housing. So just wanted to give my view and context on that. And when he mentioned that, you know, the challenges were for the last meeting that negotiations went until the end, that was because we were only engaged after submitting our letter and had never been communicated with in advance. But again, I'm appreciative of the setbacks that they addressed. I still have concerns on floor space index and density. That's all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Panel questions? Not hearing any. Moderator, next speaker, please.
Mark, you've been unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Hello there. Would you state your name, please?
Hi, my name is Mark Friesner. I'm at 290 Delaware Avenue.
Go ahead. You have 5 minutes to address the panel.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that this is an application for an apartment building on the site, as it has 10 dwelling units. Some of the language that I've read within some of the letters of support and other documentation sort of refer to density and the new bylaw for duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes. But it is in fact an apartment building, and it's being reviewed as such as far as the zoning variances. However, even under the new bylaw, you know, the bylaw still protects setbacks and sightlines. They're vital for maintaining the character of the existing neighborhood, and they should be protected. They're important because they reinforce and maintain the character of the existing street, and they maintain sightlines and the views along that street. There's not enough room on this lot to shoehorn the proposed building, and that is why the zoning review has flagged so many variances items especially when it comes to setbacks for this hearing. A multiplex rather than an apartment building would have been more suitable, and that's what it is right now. And that fits within the neighborhood. And as a resident of the neighborhood, I would have been more supportive of that type of an application. But unfortunately, that's not what is before us today. If this application is approved, it sets a dangerous precedent for the neighborhood, saying that things like sightlines and setbacks are no longer important here, and developers can build whatever they want, so long as they claim that the proposal is for density's sake. However, breaking the zoning bylaw's intent, going against the city's official plan, ignoring guidelines that are published by the city to integrate additional density into existing neighborhoods, like the townhouse and low-rise apartment guidelines, for example. Doing all those things for the purpose of squeezing more rental units than should fit onto this single lot is not the right way to do it. And it's not what's best for this neighborhood or what's best for the city. Density has to be increased intelligently across the city where it will actually fit appropriately. This proposal does not do that. Secondly, the proposed unit sizes are much too small for comfortable living. Section 3.2.6 of the City of Toronto's Affordable Rental Housing Design Guidelines states that bedrooms should be a minimum of 100 square feet. That's 9.3 square meters, with a minimum dimension of 9 feet, including operable windows to the exterior. I do not know if the proposed project includes affordable units, but the guidelines still indicate what the city deems as a minimum standard for livable rental units. On average, the bedrooms in the proposed plans are just 75 square feet. The smallest is just 55 square feet. That's almost half of what is recommended of the 100 square feet in the city's guidelines. In addition, these guidelines require an average unit size of 55 square meters. The average size of the proposed unit is just 35 square meters. I'd like to also draw attention to the unit 303, which is the bachelor unit. First, according to the city's affordable rental housing guidelines, bachelor units are no longer considered acceptable for rental units. Yet here we see one in this plan. I just want to go quickly through here. I have a lot of notes here, but I just want to say that what's being proposed is not meant to attract long-term renters, which is what this neighborhood is composed of. Whether you're a homeowner or a renter, these are long-term residents that live in this community. And I'd like to say that what's being proposed here is meant more for quick turnover rentals and to maximize the amount of units, as opposed to attract and create living environments that people will want to live in for the long term and help build the fabric and maintain the fabric of this existing wonderful community that is Dovercourt Park. I've also noticed that a lot of the letters of support in this thing, which is a little bit troubling, they don't include addresses. In fact, only 9 out of the 19 letters of support didn't have the address, so just the remaining 11 did.
I'll ask you to make your final comments now, please.
Yeah, I would just like to say that it's important that if there's support letters or letters of objection, they should come from within the neighborhood. It's not right that they could be taken from out of area, out of city, out of country even. Anyone that can submit a letter, I don't think that's right. So that pile of letters, I think, should be scrutinized for the area, and that they're people that are responding are actually people that will be affected by this application. In closing, I'd like to thank everyone for hearing this application, and I'd like to say that that this application does not meet the four tests or even attempts to do so.
Your time is
up. It
up.
does not respect the bylaw,
Your
the
time
guidelines.
is up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Panel members, questions here for this speaker? Okay. Okay then, moderator.
Hello, my name is Joe Walsh and Deborah Walsh. We live at the opposite corner, the corner of Hallam and Gladstone.
Good afternoon. You have 5 minutes to address the panel. Go ahead.
I could just repeat everything that Mark had just said. They were basically most of our points as well. Just to wrap up, I guess a couple of key points for us. The density within our neighborhood is such that when you take a fourplex or a fiveplex and make it 10, that it all of a sudden, and taking away parking spaces, makes the density just that much more harder in the area. I realize you're not in charge of parking guidelines, but it is a real issue. The simple point of the setbacks is about the fabric of the neighborhood and how when it's stuck out there on the outside, there's no room, no space for pedestrians, people who are walking their dogs. I appreciate that they have a garbage room in their basement. I don't know where the 30-plus garbage bins are going to be sitting if there's no setback. That's right in the middle of the sidewalk then. So the garbage is an issue. I don't know where it's going to be sitting and how it's going to be. Again, the setbacks are there for a reason, and that reason is to keep the neighborhood looking the way it does so we don't get a cavern effect. And I think that the changes that the builder has made from the first drawings doesn't really address any of those issues. It did address some of the setback to the to the west and maybe to the south, but right on the actual Hallam and Bartlett side, it is still a building going up on lot lines. It just makes it very difficult. And so I just want to say thank you. And again, do not believe that the density in this building is suitable for the neighborhood. A fourplex, fiveplex, some kind of change would be more conducive. And I think moving forward sets a very dangerous precedent for the future of our neighborhood.
Thank you very
Thank
much. Well, thank you. Questions for this speaker panel? Okay, and moderator, do we have one more? Luigi?
That speaker decided not to participate.
Okay. So we have in fact heard all those registered to speak in opposition.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we've heard all the registered speakers.
Okay. So that being... Excuse me. They have to be registered to speak.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's all for
That's all.
our speakers.
That's all the registered speakers, okay. Okay then. That then takes us back to the agent, who will have an opportunity to speak in rebuttal to the issues raised by all the speakers. I'll ask the agent to stick to the issues that were raised by speakers.
Yes.
And to speak to those only.
Yes.
You have 5 minutes to speak in rebuttal.
Okay, I made the note, so there was 5 speakers. First speaker was the owner of 25 Hallam.
We're having if you could make sure, if you could keep looking at your microphone, because when you put your head down, I can't hear you very well.
Okay.
So
I was just looking at my notes that I made for each speaker concerns. So he was worried about the balcony depth. The balconies are 5 feet deep, which is 1.5 meters. If you come to this site plan, you can see that the building is about 6.5 meters from the property line, and his building is about almost 3 meters from his property line. So it's together about 9.5 meters minus balcony 1.5 meters. So that would be about still 8 meters from the balcony to the building. So I don't think that they are very close as he describes it. The second, then he says his concern is about the survey. Obviously, we're going to make a new survey, but to order a survey it takes about 6 weeks to arrive. Existing survey, I'm not so sure if he doesn't his own survey. He wants us to do the survey for his property. Not sure about that. Then he talks about that we're taking away 4 units. Okay, but we're going to provide 6 additional units. So there will be 2 new units in the neighborhood for the people to live. You know, the magic number 10 units is the number that can go without site plan approval for the permits. And believe me, I have projects with the site plan approval 4 and 5 years that are still not approved because site plan approval takes so long. So city wants units quickly, and then we will be denied coming to an adjustment process, but instead of they want us to turn into site plan approval process, will be stuck there for years. Okay, so this is the first speaker. The second speaker was basically concerned about floor space index, like most of the others, all the other speakers actually. He just quotes some conclusions, some rulings from this Committee of Adjustment from 70s. Well, we have a very different situation in Toronto than in 70s. You know, like there's a lot of young people that they don't have a, you know, it's very hard to rent an apartment in the affordable price in the city. So we have an emergency situation, and we're not addressing it actually. The next speaker, next speaker is Brian. So he acknowledged that he met with us and we worked with him and addressed his concerns about the setbacks, but he still thinks, you know, we over the floor space index is too dense. As I said, the 10 units is the magic number that brings us back without site plan approval. And the unit size is the result of reducing the floor space index. So the smaller floor space index, the smaller units will be. Actually, why is the bachelor? We have one bachelor, and it's required from the city to have a mix of units. One bedroom, bachelor, and two bedroom. The city wants a mix. They don't want just one bedrooms. That's why we put one bachelor in there. Not that we wanted, but that's what the planner wanted. Next speaker was Brian. So as I said, we didn't put it 4 floors. We could have, but then probably would block all of his views. But he preferred 3 floors for sure. The next speaker
I'll
was
ask you, Mr. Roskowski, to make Mr. Roskowski make your final comments now, please.
Okay, so the first speaker talked about unit sizes. I just addressed it, that unit sizes goes down when the floor space index goes down. The last speaker was talking about setback and garbage. You know, on the Halam, the sidewalk from the property line to the street is more than 12 feet. So there's room for the garbage to stand on. And in the floor space index setbacks, we increasing the setbacks from the Bartlett Avenue by 4 times almost. Okay, sorry.
Okay, your time is up. Okay, then at this stage, the panel will have some questions for you.
Yes.
So, perhaps I'll begin because I'm curious about the garbage plan. Will tenants take their garbage to the basement and put it in large containers, or will each tenant have his own container in the basement?
No. If you look at the floor plans, please go to the floor plans. There's a utility room beside the elevator. We can put a container there, and then
I don't want to know, not the floor. When I get into the garbage room, I know there's a garbage room. But
yes.
What happens in there?
So the caretaker takes the garbage, collects the garbage from the floors. Can you go, like, say, to the 2nd floor, for instance, or is that the typical situation? Hello? To the 2nd floor, okay. You see, there is a room, utility room, that then garbage can be collected there from the tenants, and then the caretaker can take all the garbage downstairs.
Okay.
But, alternatively, tenants can also do that because there's the elevator there.
Now I get it. So there won't be
The chute is not
garbage
permitted
containers
when there
per
is a-
unit. There won't
Yes.
be two or three garbage containers per unit. It's going to be caretaker will take out the garbage for the building.
Of course.
I understand.
And then-
Panel members, other questions? Mr. Nipfel, go ahead.
There hasn't been any discussion about variances number 6 and 7. You're really deficient on landscaping. Could you speak to why you're so deficient?
Well, the landscaping is right now. If you, I have a street view right now of there is no landscaping at all in this property. So we are providing is. Can you go to the first drawing number 1, where the picture is actually. Can you go there? Yeah, right here. Okay, sorry. Okay, so you can see there's a landscaping provided at the back. There's also landscaping provided from Bartlett. But this landscaping that's provided from Bartlett, it cannot count as a landscaping because it's on the top of the basement below. And that does not count as a landscaping, but there will be actually green area there, which we couldn't calculate as a landscaping.
Here's our question about landscaping to you is this. We don't care what the percentages are today. This is a new build. This is an opportunity to improve or even comply with what the bylaw requires.
Plus, the green roof also provided 67% of the lot. There is a note in the explanation, letter of explanation about the green roof provided for the neighborhood, you know, on the roof. You look at the explanation. No, not the zoning. Look at the explanation letter.
Is it a green roof?
I don't know. I didn't understand what you said.
My understanding, I didn't understand this was a green roof. Is this a green roof?
Either way, it doesn't count as landscape.
And it doesn't work one-to-one.
Additionally, we provide green roof area, 67% of lot area, 172.4 square meters. Look up in my explanation letter.
Okay, are there any other questions, panel, for the applicant?
Yes,
Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Yes, I do. Can you tell me whether you know there's a minimum requirement for the dimension of a bedroom or a living room? I think that is part of the building code that there is some kind of minimal dimension, minimum dimension. Do you know that? Or all your units meet the minimum dimensions of bedrooms or living room?
Yes, I think obviously building code is not gonna approve, you know, in building code if the rooms are too small.
Okay, no, I just want to know whether
Much smaller. Some of the condos downtown have a much smaller bedrooms than I'm proposing here.
No, no, my question, I just want to know whether you are aware, whether you have worked with that dimensions. If there aren't any minimum requirement, that's fine, if that's the answer. I just want to know. I mean, I used to recall that there's a minimum dimension of certain rooms, major rooms in an apartment. Maybe they have taken that out, I do not know. That's one question. Second question
this is a building code issue, yes. Go
Okay,
ahead.
are there any other questions for
no,
Mr.
I
Nipfel?
haven't finished. Yeah, I have another question.
Oh, pardon me.
You have 10 units here. Is any of this unit is barrier-free?
It's what?
Yeah. Barrier-free. Barrier-free. It's good
Barrier-
for wheelchair.
Well, all the units are barrier-free because there is, look at it on the site plan. Go on the site plan.
No.
There is an access from the halam. There is
I mean the units itself. All the washrooms. Doesn't seem that I don't see one is actually.
Oh, okay. I know. I mean, no, I don't have a barrier-free washrooms right now
Okay,
in the
thank
building.
Mr.
But
Nipfel, please.
the units are
There's another-
accessible by wheelchair. Yes.
Mr. Nipfel, go ahead.
Because you've got 10 units, am I correct? You're not going through site plan control?
Correct. We try to avoid it because it's very lengthy process. Some of my projects are 5 years already in the city, and then they're not going nowhere right now.
Are there any other questions, panel members, for the applicant? So at this stage, there being no further questions for the applicant from the panel, the panel is going to do this. The panel is going to take the application into committee. Now, what that means is that we'll be conducting a transparent, open conversation here amongst the members of the panel. Only panel members are permitted to speak. And so that's what we're going to do now. If we need, for some reason, to come out of committee to put questions to the applicant, we'll do so. All right, so now we are going into committee on this application. Panel members.
I can start.
Why don't you start, please?
My comment is that actually, I think this proposal has got a lot of real good potentials, but I have no problem with the size or height. If you look at it, it's only, they're adding another floor to the existing height is already 2-story and square. But I have quite a bit of difficulties accepting this is a good proposal because actually the size of the units, that 7 feet with no closet is the width of a bedroom. I find this need to have more work, and I am disappointed to see that out of the 10 units, not even one is addressing accessibility type of, you will say, living conditions. And this seems that it needs further work. For the size of the building, to me, overall is fine, but then I think they should reduce the number of units, maybe then make the quality of the units better and more acceptable. At the moment, I can't support it.
Mr. Dipper, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I share my colleagues' concern with the size of the units. I also, relative to the variances, I have real problems with actually all of them. I think the setbacks are extreme. The landscape variances are totally unacceptable in my view, and the implications for privacy, the privacy of adjacent uses is really poor. I mean, there are balconies that overlook yards that are existing. In addition to that, we're being asked to reduce the setback between the balconies and those yards. I'm also unable to support this application.
Thank you. Any comment, Mr. Byer?
Listening to my colleagues, my thinking's been pushed a little bit more in the direction of the inappropriateness of the application. I think one of the challenges that was presented, one of the items of contention that was presented was the size of the units and bedrooms. And while sitting here, I've just gone to the building codes for living spaces, and without going into it in depth, some of these spaces may be just on the edge of being okay. So for example, I'm seeing something here that says other bedrooms without built-in closets, 75 square feet. And if I remember correctly, I was looking at the drawings, and one of the bedrooms was about 70 or 80 square feet. So I think they're
50.
just on the verge of meeting requirement.
No, it's 50 square feet. It's not
Actually, it was about 64 square feet, I beg your pardon. It was about 8 foot by 8 foot. So they just on the side of perhaps either just meeting a requirement or below. And I think that comes to Mr. Nipple, sorry, it's a late hour. Mr. Nipple's point about these units tend to be a bit small, and I don't think we want our citizens to be packed in like sardines. So I think that there may be an overbuild in that sense, packing too much into a small space. So I'm inclined to agree with my colleagues and say it's not quite appropriate. Intention is good, but doesn't quite work.
For my part, at first I was attracted to the proposal because of the 10 units of rental housing. I thought that was desirable. But as I listened to the presentation, and then as I listened to the comments of those that spoke in opposition, the drawbacks and the concerns just came up one after another, and they were real. And so I was persuaded by the arguments that I heard against the proposal. So I won't be able to support the proposal either. At this stage, I think we're ready for a motion. And I'll to Mr. Nipple to begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd move that we refuse the application.
Thank you. Is there a second to that? It is seconded. Mr. Byatt. It is thereby moved and seconded to refuse the application. All those in favor, please show your hands. Now that vote is unanimous to carry the motion. The application is thereby refused. And with that, the panel wraps up its full agenda for the day. It is 5:35 p.m. And my thanks to my fellow panel members for their eagle eyes and their ability to interpret these applications so well, and to panel as always, the staff, pardon me, as always, for their terrific operational support and guidance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and panel members. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bruce, could I extend the appreciation for the panel? I gather this is your last year. It's been a pleasure to serve with you.
Thank you, Carl. Also mine.
You're thanking me too?
Yeah, it's not good for coming back.
Thank you very much for that. It's been great. It has been a pleasure.